Welcome to the Everyday Practices Podcast. I'm Reagan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take right into your own dental practice. If you're ready to elevate patient care and produce results that are anything but ordinary, buckle up and listen in. Welcome to Everyday Practices Dental Podcast. Last week, we met with Adrian Santangelo, Chief Digital Forensics Officer with Cyemptive, to dive into the fiasco that happened with Aspen Dental, and more importantly, the cyber crime that is happening all across the world at large, and what dental practices, dental business owners, and team can do to protect themselves. That is for things that are happening today, meaning things that you and I can read on the news and we know is happening. But while that's happening, there's a whole heck of a lot going on underneath the surface that we have yet to see. However, there are things that we can do to prepare for that as well. And part of that is being informed. So we're welcoming Adrian Santangelo back to Everyday Practices again to talk about some of the things that are unseen, what is coming down the pipeline with regards to similar cyber criminal crime, cyber criminal activities, and what we can do about it. So Adrian, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
Hello, Dr. Chad Johnson, by the way, my faithful co-host.
I love discussing cyber criminality.
Say it 10 times fast.
I know, that was one time and that's it. That's all you're getting.
So I'm a big user. I can't say a big user. That's really not fair. I have used ChatGPT. Like as soon as that came out, I started playing around with it and looking at it and thinking, oh, this is pretty cool. This is okay. And then all of a sudden it felt like at once, Adrian, all the news started coming about AI and the dangers of AI. And I didn't even think, because my brain just doesn't seem to be wired this way, somebody's going to use that for nefarious purposes.
Shocking.
I know. And I get hit up with my text messages. It's multiple times a week. So they're telling me that I need to, I'll get a random text message and it says, Reagan, your package is late. Click here to, reschedule your package. Or, oh my gosh, I just got this loan approved. Just click here and you can access your loan. We just need one piece of information. I feel like I'm getting text messages all the time. And now I'm getting phone messages all the time and voicemails. And I realize that AI can be used in a very nefarious way, like I said. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts on AI in relation to cybercrime?
That's a big one because really it is kind of the AI Wild West right now, and we're seeing exactly that. AI has huge potential. Like ChatGPT, it's a large language model. The idea behind it is that it takes this vast amount of information and can then parse it and then spit things back out quickly. That's the whole idea of it. So from a nefarious standpoint, one of the biggest issues that you have with social engineering is having somebody good at social engineering. They have to be able to think on their feet. They have to be able to change the conversation as it goes. That is literally what LLMs are designed to do, is like chatbot. And so if you get taken into a chat room for, this link you click on there for support or whatever, you could be talking to an AI the entire time, and it's been trained to do nefarious things. So places like ChatGPT and other ones that are out there, Google has Bard, they have safeguards in place to help prevent some of those things from happening. But these are open source applications in some cases. You can go and download it yourself. You can then retrain it to do whatever you want to do with it. And if your entire process is, I want to train this to be bad, it's like a dog. You get a puppy and you can raise it to be good or raise it to be bad. It's your choice. And so people are taking these things and actually training them to do nefarious things. Your goal is to take this person's money, figure out as much information as you can about them. And here is, the last 15,000 things that worked against this person because it's all online. And they just train it against the thing to do this kind of thing. So we're seeing that from the language models. We're also seeing things get even worse when it comes to voice and even pictures and video. I mean, it's shockingly easy to train a voice and then have an entire thing happen with a phone call. You can type up a script and it will use somebody's voice. I mean, there is a voice.ai is one of the big ones right now that you can go and download and use yourself. And they actually use your computer as you remember, like, dating myself, but back in the early 2000s, they had this SETI at home where you could use your computer to help search for aliens.
SETI at home. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Hold on. I didn't hear it. So you could do what with aliens? What?
You could search for aliens with your home computer.
Oh,
Because you had this SETI, SETI at home. It was this folding at home where basically it used this before there was cloud computing, they used everybody's personal computers as the cloud.
Oh.
And so SETI at home did this to crunch all the data captured by telescopes. Well, voice AI, in trade of being able to generate voices that you want, it uses your computer to generate those voices for others. And so you can generate credits through this thing. And then once you have enough credits, you can go and say, I want to go ahead and train the voice of, Bill Clinton or Donald Trump or whatever you want to do. And then you can type what you want to type with that voice. Well, if you want to make your own voice, you can do that now too. You can just grab a snippet of audio, a couple of minutes, and put it into here. And it will train that program to speak in that voice. And so it's not like, us talking right now. Somebody can grab that snippet, plop it into this program, spend a couple of hours training for somebody else to get some credits, and then boom, they can now talk as me somewhere else on the phone or in a video or what have you. And it's shockingly easy to do with even a home computer.
Adrian, if you are a bot, clap your hands 3 times.
Blink twice if you're in trouble.
Blink twice. That got me thinking. I was like, oh no, maybe this guy isn't real.
I actually thought about a little bit of we had some fun a long time ago, as in like, less than a year ago, but a long time ago, where we actually joined a video meeting as Keanu Reeves because we had trained the AI to do that. And it looked like exactly like him on the picture. And one of our guys was pretty good at his voice. And so we actually joined a meeting and said, oh, I'm in the wrong place. And like, they're like, oh my gosh, what is this? And so, but you couldn't tell. I mean, you would see everything you see in my video, but except my face would be him, the hair would be him. And it took us probably about a half an hour to train it set up. It's kind of crazy.
That so the only way that I knew about the voice AI becoming a thing was it was on, I don't know, Instagram or something, but they had taken like a rapper's voice and made a song then it sounded the exact same. And I had this complete panic moment where I thought, this is where I said in the previous episode, my heart stopped. Think about our senior population. I think about my parents. And I also think about how many places my voice is public. It would be game over. They would simply call them, send them a video, something. And of course, my parents would do anything. They would, it's absolutely terrifying to think. And then to hear from you now, we're also doing, I've heard about deep fake videos. I've seen the deep fake videos. They tend to do like Tom Cruise or whoever, but Tom Cruise. So, but now they can do that with the face too. And we're not all, many people are working remotely. How are you preparing?
Where's that
for
line,
this?
like, right?
Yes.
The nefarious people out there, they are after whatever they can do to make money, right? And so if they can, like for example, you said, you call on your parents and claim to be in trouble, what have you. That legit happened. There's a news article a couple of weeks ago where a mother got a frantic call from her daughter that said that she had been, kidnapped, and the people were willing to talk, and all of a sudden, they only got a couple of words in. And then she just heard like whimpering in the background and crying. It's like, that's my daughter. I recognize that voice. Well, they had taken stuff from her social media and just grabbed the snippets from her videos and Instagram and TikTok and everything else, and then generated this voice and then called this person to do it. And so there was, yes, she was fine, obviously, never in trouble. But for that 15, 20 minutes of not knowing, even 5 minutes of not knowing, just imagine the horror and the fear that you're going to face. You'll do anything and you're not thinking straight. And so if they just say, just give us, $1,000, wire here, we'll let her go. I mean, you might just do it. And that's what we see coming down the pipe right now. And it's, back when Photoshop first came out, people were like, I can't trust a picture anymore. Well, now you can't trust picture, audio, video, or text. So what are you going to do now?
So are these types of attacks happening right now today?
Absolutely. 100%.
Dang. So what even is the mitigation plan for that? What are you even doing? I mean, if your amygdala is hijacked and you are in that moment of panic, you just need that right sentence at the right time to put them into a complete lizard brain panic state, and they
Yeah.
will do whatever it takes.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say, but of course, staying calm if you get one of those calls, verification. And so this mother did the right thing. She had somebody else call the daughter while she's on the phone. And of course, the daughter's like, what are you talking about? I'm fine. I mean, I'm at my dorm, whatever. And so, I mean, to her, it was no big deal. But like, what if you couldn't reach them? Whatever. Well, then call a friend,
Right.
or have. And so there's actually been like, work out a code word. If you're really in trouble, have a phrase that you can say that they know I'm in trouble.
Wow,
that
that's
way,
so like 80s.
it is.
Like, safe
like
word.
if they're over at the sleepover, you want to come home without embarrassing yourself. Give us the phrase, give us the code word. And so it's the same thing now. Have it be something that's completely unrelated that you would never ever say legitimately, or somebody wouldn't think of it. It's like a password, for example. We're circling back around to passwords now, but now they're just by voice instead of by typing. And the idea is that way you will know up front if they're actually in trouble. Because you can say, I need to hear the code word from her to know she's in trouble. And they're not going to be able to do that.
And make sure you don't say the code word around Alexa.
Yeah. Or any home assistant. You don't have a home assistant, in fact.
I was going to say, or Alexa or Google, or what is it? My TV, right? My TV, my remote has a microphone in it. So my assumption is it could potentially be listening at all times.
Or your Android phone or your iPhone. They all have microphones they listen to.
So
does Hey Siri work? It's listening.
Adrian, recently I cleaned up my history on Facebook to like where people could access it. Would that also be maybe something that you could personally do to protect yourself? I didn't do it for AI purposes, but you talking about how they went into some videos and stuff like that, it got me thinking, like.
Yeah, I mean, people have surprisingly large digital footprints. And that's one of the things that we have. Actually, I see AI helping in that because, again, what's happening now, it's just going to get worse. I mean, AI is good. It's huge. It's in the right direction. There's a lot of positive things you can get from it, from accessibility to innovation, et cetera. There's no doubt. But at the same time, what's coming down the pipe is just what we're talking about now times 10. I mean, you think it's bad now, just wait until people have had AI for more than 3 months to train their AI voices, or train their AI videos, or train their large language models to do nefarious things. I mean, these have only been around for a little while, not even on the internet yet. I mean, there's GPT-4 just came out. It's actually online. You can actually go out and search active stuff now. It's not limited down. So it's just going to be even worse. It's going to get wild pretty quick.
I even told my workout buddy while we were out on the bike this weekend, we were riding, and I said, with AI, he's into, tech and computer stuff. And I said, what I thought was interesting, and he knew the video I was talking about, where it was a computer face, and I almost think it was like this gray NPC kind of looking, face.
Yeah.
But the face was doing frownings and the surprise look and turning its head like it's thinking. And I thought that's interesting because the algorithm is starting to learn what human little idiosyncrasies that we pick up on for trustworthiness or anything like that. That would make, so if the computer image was doing the things that make you trust them, and then even in the voice, whether it's a lift or a down tone to give confidence, and stuff like that. The vocal inflection points that we don't think about often, but that the computer knows, if I do this, it increases my chances of getting that score, of getting the adult parent to give me the credit card number is going to increase by 15%. It's all automatically like, figuring out what the ROI is, and they're playing around with A/B modeling and stuff like that. And doesn't that blow your mind to think that that they could be using stuff that taps into primal things that get us to trust that it indeed is being truthful?
Yeah, they are taking like interrogations, training on interrogation. They're training their language models and AI against those things too, because that's how it picks up on those things. Exactly what you're talking about, the inflections in the voice, the physical cues. That's why most people can pick out, a robot voice, as they call it, because it doesn't have that natural language flow. It doesn't pause sentences correctly. It doesn't have the ups and downs of the voices. And they're doing that now. Like because those can be done, and you can have a generated voice that is almost, especially over a phone call or something, or a video on a YouTube, whatever, the compression. I mean, it's just, you just don't pick up on those things like you would anymore. And from a video standpoint, I mean, it's even worse. I can literally take a picture from somebody's Facebook and then put them onto any video or any picture or GIF or whatever you want to have, and make it look like it's them. I mean, of course, some will be better than others, and so, but there's things you can train that will actually do that purposefully just from a face. And so you see them a lot in like memes and such. There's face swap apps and that kind of stuff. Imagine that, but someone who has an entire server farm dedicated to nothing but training that. Those get to be pretty big. And that's, again, videos are bad. There was one of like Jim Carrey that was taking over as like some lady, I forget what she was on, but it was the voice and the face was dead on perfect as him. But of course, it was her doing all the things on David Letterman or something. It's just crazy how and that was 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, now your home computer can do that.
So back in 2015, 2016 or so, I remember Internet of Things was a big discussion point in cybersecurity community at large. And that was, there was a lot of, is it still? Well, because there's not a lot of regulation, everything seems to have some sort of connection now. Yep. So that's still a topic. What is the community's assessment on this with AI?
I mean, from a security and cybersecurity perspective, it's still, there's lots of discussions. I mean, because you can train like ChatGPT or any LLM to code, and so if you can be a programmer all of a sudden now, without knowing much about it, and so you can know very little, very basic entry knowledge, and have it go and make a keylogger for you, or have it go and make a command and control server to infect and then receive exfiltration out, because it can say, I want it to do this. And if you go to like ChatGPT, it's going to say, well, that's illegal. I can't do that for you. That's fine. Go download the language model instead, train it yourself for a couple of hours. Now ask it, and there's no limits on that kind of stuff again. So we've played with that before internally here, because we have to know what's coming. And so we actually have trained AI to be as bad as possible, so we know what it can do. And we've actually used it to increase security, because if it can figure it out, so can somebody bad. And so we say, oh, and you can have it. I mean, that's one of the good uses of AI. They're having it look at code and say, what's wrong with this code? Where is there a bug? It used to take people, hours or days or weeks to debug stuff. An LLM can do it for you in a couple of minutes sometimes. And so that's a good use of it. And so we're using it that way, but the bad guys are using it the exact same way, but to get the bad stuff out of it, as opposed to fix the bad stuff in it.
This is the part where the story turns for me, and it gets really exciting. The fact that you have, does this define ethical hacking? Am I using it the correct way? Because you are specifically trying to figure out the worst things you can do with something in order to combat it. Is that an accurate
That is 100% correct. That is what a lot of our clients literally pay us to do, is to find the bad stuff before somebody else does.
Chad, how are you feeling about all of this?
Oh, I don't know. I'm really dumb at some of this. And then I also think, it makes sense. I'm just on the cusp of.
You need to stop saying dumb. You're not dumb at all. You are.
Well, no, in one regard, it's not
experienced in this.
I would say the word ignorant, because everybody's ignorant in something.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, an all-encompassing dumb, but like some of this stuff, I'm just like, man. I also think, though, of my friends back in high school that they asked the high school if they could try and break in to the server or whatever. And sure enough, they did. And it was just kind of a friendly attempt at cyber protection, or, trying to test, testing and stuff like that. And they knew that it was coming and stuff. And so they asked my friend Ryan, can you get into the server? And he was like, the next day, he's like, yeah, I got in. And they were like, really? How did you do that? And he's like, well, I did this. And they're like, wow. So they went back to the drawing board, and this is just a cat and mouse game. And I don't know, what also goes through my mind is like when I had lightning hit my office in 2011, and it fried our servers. And then I was out for a few weeks while they were trying to rebuild the local servers that we had. There at the time, I had no cloud servers. I don't even know if that was a thing or if it was super expensive at the time, but back then what was it, 2011? And I mean, we just basically had to build the server from what we had. And that was relatively benign in that no one was attacking us other than, lightning. And it still crippled us for a few weeks, because the very next day when someone comes in the office and they're like, hey, I have an appointment, we didn't have a schedule that we could call and tell them to not come in. So then they come in, we don't know their name. And then we also can't reappoint them. We can't tell them we could, so like, and then at 10 o'clock, more patients coming in saying, I have an appointment right now. And if you wanted to guess, if they said, well, I had a filling to do, it's just like, well, where? I can't look at the radiographs. I can't reschedule them. I don't know, where, how much, even if we did it, how much they would be billed for. Would we send it off, to the insurance company? I mean, multiple layers of crippling. And Adrian, this is commonplace to you, but like, I've thought this through before because I've had it happen, and it wasn't because of someone maliciously doing it, but it still put us into quite a spiral.
Hacked by nature.
Hacked by nature. And it
Band
was
name, I called it.
What's that?
Band name, I called it.
Yeah. And man, it was crippling. So tell me, I mean, when someone has insurance for this kind of stuff, specifically, what kind of policies can people do to make sure that, that they're helped out with this?
Yeah, and we talked about that a little bit last week about how having local backups, having on-site backups, and online backups, all the same because of that exact instance. And so, I mean, back in 2011, I really don't think that they had they had cloud services, obviously. They didn't have it being the most common thing out there. Like, Office 365 was still kind of new and everything else. But it was one of those things where, yes, nowadays having some sort of insurance on there, I mean, check with your providers. That's the biggest thing. Sometimes your existing business insurance does have a cyber insurance or a cyber liability, if you want to call it, policy out there. Not all of them do, but there are entire businesses dedicated to nothing but that, because that's a new business model now. And insurance, is one of those things where it's a love-hate relationship for most people. I mean, many people, I pay into it and I never get anything out of it, kind of a thing. But at the same time, when you need it and it's the good one, you do get something out of it. And we've seen businesses saved by their cyber insurance policies because they've paid out and they've been able to make payroll. They've been able to get new equipment, et cetera, that, that was damaged or destroyed or lost by, again, not always the fault of their own, but I mean, number of years ago, there was, jokes going around about how if you were in like a chat room and said, I can melt your motherboard, and, that, no, you can't. That doesn't exist that way. But nowadays, there are firmware attacks that'll make it so your firewall doesn't boot back up ever again. Your server can't boot back up ever again because of an exploit in BIOS or an exploit in the network layer called, there's ILO for HP. There's, basically it lets you interact with that device at a level before it's booted up and it's over a network. And there are ways that you can brick it so it can't boot back up again.
So would you, not as though this is your level of expertise to discuss this, but would you recommend that someone have basically like a month's worth of their collections as their insurance, limit? For example, some offices, Aspen, would need millions and millions of dollars.
Sure.
But another office might be producing $200,000 in a month. And so that would be $50,000 in a week. And if they could get back up in a week, then that in essence cost them $50,000. So would they be thinking along those lines of, okay, I need to make sure that I have a month's worth of money supply from this cyber liability insurance to offset the potential of 1 month or 2 weeks, or is that not even the way to look at it? What's your thoughts with that?
No, that makes sense. Yeah, it's definitely not my area of expertise, but we have discussed this kind of a stuff before with clients, and so in reality, talking to your insurance provider is a first step to see, what do they recommend, what do they have available, because you might be limited by what your options are anyway. Some of them only say, you can get a $100,000 policy and that's that. This is end of story. Whereas others might say, oh, you can do a $2 million policy, but it's going to cost you, $10,000 a month. So
Right.
it just varies about cost versus performance, like anything else, right? Risk versus reward. But at the same time, it's more than just your lost revenue. I mean, what if you get fined by some compliance agency because of the issue they had there? That's not built into that policy. Or what happens if you lose business for the next 2 years because your reputation's damaged? That's not built into that policy. So there's a lot of things to look at beyond just the loss of income. But it's if you have to pay a ransom and you have to pay your staff, sometimes you have to pick if you don't have the right coverage. And so looking at those different options are huge. And I mean, it's no good will come of that. But at the same time, making sure that you have at least the coverage that you need is going to be very, very different per person, let alone per industry or per practice. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of places that will have experience in this. So if you have a place that does, cyber liability or cyber insurance for dental offices, they have experience in the software, the hardware, the staffing, and the needs afterwards. They're going to give you better information and better knowledge than just a generic cyber insurance company will.
Do you see businesses crippled by attacks? I mean, not crippled for 7 days. I mean, devastated.
Close. Yeah. I would say probably 1 in maybe 20, 1 in 25 we work with and closing because they can't afford to open back up again. And that sounds like a shocking number. And I mean,
it does.
We've dealt with a lot of smaller businesses as well. It's not just the big boys that get hit with this stuff. And I mean, it can take it out to the point of where reputation is damaged, and they might last for another couple of months, couple of years. But in the end, if they close because of that incident, it's like back in 2008 when they had this big financial downturn, people did their best to hang around for a year or two, but then just couldn't make it work. It's kind of like that with the cyber incident. You can go along for a while on your reserves or on your insurance, but if people don't come back to you because they don't feel safe, that's going to cripple your business beyond just an incident.
Well, that was one of the things that I've been kind of holding in the back pocket, I guess, if you will, is, when we speak to Aspen, we use them as an example because it's a real world scenario and they're so well known and they're so big. So when I look at and it's recent. If I'm an independent business owner, I think I would think, well, I'm just a small potato, right? I'm just a small guy. They're probably not going to go after me. Is that
they don't care.
A negative? Yeah. Is that a myth?
That's very much a myth. They aren't looking to see who you are and what you're doing until after you've already been hit. They look to see where they can get, and they will do it via phishing. I mean, you can send out, 100,000 emails targeted to people that if you get hit, you get hit. And then they go, oh, we're in their network. We're in their accounts. Let's see what's here. Oh, look at that. They have, $27,000 in the bank account. Let's go ahead and ransom all their stuff for 20 grand. I mean, they don't care. If you have anything, be it money or information, you are a target. And I don't think of any business that doesn't have money information that's in a business right now.
I think this slides into the next series or the next episode that we're going to talk about, which is what you can do as a business owner. So Adrian, thank you for sharing with us everything that's coming down the pike with AI, with voice. It's going to get scarier, but we have help on our side that's trying to emulate what's happening on the dark side so that they can be prepared and we can be prepared in turn. So that's really exciting. Thank you for that, Adrian. In our next episode, we're going to talk about what you can do, dentists and your team can do to protect yourself against the number one security risk today, which is your people. Hi, Dr. Reagan Robertson, CCO of Productive Dentist Academy here, and I have a question for you. Are you finding it hard to get your team aligned to your vision, but you deserve growth just like everybody else? And that's why we've created the PDA Productivity Workshop. For nearly 20 years, PDA workshops have helped dentists just like you align their teams, get control of scheduling, and create productive practices that they love walking into every day. Just imagine how you will feel when you know your schedule is productive, your systems are humming, and your team is aligned to your vision. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. We can help. Visit productivedentist.com/workshop. That's productivedentist.com/workshop to secure your seats now. Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. Chad and I are here every week thanks to our community of listeners just like you, and we'd love your help.
It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.